Welcome, everyone, to the Minions of the Zoo Tuesday edition. I'm your keeper, Skep, Tock, and with me I have Minions Prospero.
Hello.
And the Harry Channel.
Good evening.
It's such a pleasure to be with both of you this evening. I hope you're having a wonderful time getting into the Christmas spirit and all that sort of thing. Prospero, how was your day?
It was great. It was great. We went out to a restaurant we hadn't been to yet, excuse me. And it was an Italian place up in Ashland. It was yummy. They had very, very good calamari. I judge places on whether they can.
How far is the drive is that to Ashland? I can't do Richmond distances.
It's 15 miles between Richmond Center, like the state capital.
Yeah, that's what
Ashland.
I'm thinking of. Yeah.
And so, but we're only about 6.5 miles below. So it's a quick ride up there. Wonderful little town, college town.
What school is there?
Randolph-Macon.
That's right. That's why I knew it. That's why
we know it.
Familiar.
We know it. We know it from our fellow minion, too, since that's where that's where Sangs went to college. Amazingly enough,
as it were. So, anyway.
As it were, yeah.
Harry, how was your day?
Well, I can answer you and Assassin at the same time. I have spent an absolutely unhealthy amount of time sitting at my desk today. It started at about 6 in the morning, and I have really not done anything. Like, I'm sitting here thinking, am I like the poster child for a blood clot at this point? You just get up, dude. Get up, move around. It is. It's been one of those days.
Oh man, you do need some physical exercise.
This is not the norm. This is not the norm. But it's been one of those days where it's like, holy crap.
I've spent some time in Iron Butt City myself. I know what that's like. 20-hour days for as many days as you can till the code works.
Well, I was busy trying to save my biggest customer a lot of money. They're doing a procurement for some new storage stuff. It's all NDA, so I can't really give a lot of details. But after about a day and a half of meetings that I got dragged into it, that I didn't know I was going to be in this week. Okay, that's how the week's going. I just said, I've been in a lot of these kinds of things before where people try to pitch storage. And you've gone for like a day and a half now, and I have yet to see a single graph. They go, what do you mean? I go, you've said all sorts of qualitative things about how awesome your product is, but I haven't seen a single graph showing like how the performance scales as you add stuff to it or anything. Or a benchmark. Yeah. I haven't seen a single benchmark.
Yep.
So
load testing, anything.
I was kind of a dick, but I got to be kind of a dick and get paid to be a dick, so that's good. That was my day. I got paid to be a dick.
Yeah, I had actually quite a bit of that when I was a consultant, because being a senior consultant, by the time you get called, things are on fire. The regular consultants handle the normal, customer load. Sometimes you go out on a fairly normal customer call, but usually when you get called in, I was an expensive item, and it was because things were on fire.
Yeah.
And I just turned into Dan the Dick and did what I had to do.
Well, it's a really interesting product, which I can't really talk about. But I did notice that a lot of the normal sales stuff doesn't work on me because I'm a little weird, and so I don't respond to stuff the same way. So these guys opened up and said, well, unless you're going to buy like a certain amount of stuff, it's really just not that interesting for us. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is like Pickup Artist 101. You're literally negging the customer.
Yeah, exactly. That's bold. That's fucking bold.
I'll bet
you got ahead of me.
I'll bet you're not man enough to handle our product, our massive throbbing product.
The Oracle sales pitch.
Our massive throbbing product. God.
it's you'll wish you had less product. So yeah, it's been I definitely earned my keep the last couple days.
Beg me to sell you this product, bitch.
Yeah.
Get on your knees, bitch.
Man, I don't even know if I want to sell you this anymore.
Fine. Get the fuck out of my office.
Yeah. So
buddy Harry.
I caused a few little a few little ripples. I asked them about their backup strategy. Oh, we can back up to Amazon S3, and I said, "Oh, that's interesting." So this backup of which you're talking about, can it be read back into anything that isn't your product? And they go, "What do you mean?"
What do you mean?
I mean, this backup, does it depend on me having a working version of your product in order to read the data? Well, yeah. Oh, okay.
Okay. So it's a proprietary format. Is
Yeah.
What you're saying.
Yeah, it's a proprietary format.
And you say, okay, so have you escrowed the drivers to decrypt this festering lump of dog meat that
I have
pleased to call a product?
Yeah, well, yeah, it was interesting. Like I said, I wish I could tell you more. Hopefully, when it goes, it's not under NDA anymore. I can tell you. But I earned my money. I feel good about it. You know, there are days when you kind of just make money just by showing up, and then there's days where you really feel like you earned it. And I really know that I've earned it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to feel at all guilty about sending out this invoice at the end of the month. Yeah.
Nor should you ever.
Yeah.
Remember, the customer is the enemy. Invoice them in the belly.
Yes. So yeah, that was my day. My day is absolutely not interesting.
When you stick your hands into a wallet that a minute ago was full of cash, you'll know what to do.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just rewatched Patton.
I haven't seen all of that except the one time in the theater.
Yeah.
And I really do need to rewatch it. I thoroughly enjoyed it then.
It absolutely holds up. Well, I mean, obviously as a period piece, but it was just so well done.
Yeah, it was.
You can quibble about the, inaccuracies and the things that the showbiz pieces that they, worked up. They over dramatized the stuff that happened out in the desert. But
it still holds up.
It still holds up. It's still an entertaining movie, and George C. Scott is absolutely hypnotic as Pat.
He is, and I even though he bore no physical resemblance whatsoever to him, I thought Carl Malden was outstanding as Brad.
I agree with you, and that was a problem for me because I knew what Omar Bradley looked like.
He looked like a professor.
Yeah,
exactly. With his little round glasses, and I mean, he just looked. He looked like a British librarian.
Yes.
He did not look like
a British librarian,
the commander of the First Army of the United States
in about 1915.
Yes. Yeah,
those little glasses. I know exactly what you're talking about.
He just didn't look like the kind of guy that would be in charge of so much the way he was, and he was such an essential part of our war effort. Just remarkable guy. I need to read. I've got a copy of it somewhere in all the boxes in the basement of A Soldier's Story. His memoir. And I think that would be worth reading. It's a little bit harder to read. I've sampled one Eisenhower's memoir. And
it's unreadable.
Yeah, it's very difficult. It's very difficult. It's like reading a day planner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like, oh god.
Oh, there was so much.
But he simply recorded too much information.
Yes,
I'm sorry that.
Yeah, nobody edited it because it was Ike.
Yeah,
he was the Brett Kavanaugh of his time.
Yeah,
I don't need to know that you had fried potatoes breakfast again this morning.
Well, speaking of Ike,
we don't care.
did you guys back in the late 70s catch the mini series they did? I don't know what network is on, called Ike, which was it was a 3-part mini series, and Robert Duvall was Ike, and Robert Duvall is awesome. Okay,
Yes,
I mean
he
he's
is.
Yeah.
fine
everything.
actor. I mean, this movie had envy
thing
for
in
the
The
movie
Godfather.
Patton in a lot of ways, but it was a pretty good little thing with Robert Duvall, and Lee Remick was in it. And I enjoyed the hell out of that one. I thought it was actually a pretty good little wartime thing.
Ike the Warriors, 1979. During World War II, General Dwight D. Eisenhower serves as Supreme Commander of the Allied forces in Europe. I'm doing the Serenity look up here. On a personal level, he has an extramarital affair with his driver, Kay Summersby.
Well, it is Lee Remick. I mean, you can hardly blame him. Oh, wait, in real life, it wasn't Lee Remick. Never mind.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Kay was pretty cute.
Yeah.
I've seen pictures of her. I mean, I could understand it.
I think it was a musical, wasn't it?
Anybody seen Mamie? Yeah.
Wasn't there a song? What are we going to do about Montgomery? I don't know. It was. No, it wasn't a musical.
That should have been one. Actually, somebody should have made sure he got fragged after Operation Market Garden. I have a very poor opinion of
The problem with
Montgomery.
The problem with Montgomery was if you had fragged Montgomery, there were 4 or 5
other Montgomerys right behind
other
him.
Montgomerys just as reprehensible, even more stuff, and they were not as capable. I mean, you can say what you want about Montgomery. He had a soldier's mind and he knew how to fight.
Yeah, he was just such a prig.
He was just such an absolute fuck.
And they kept having to throw sops to
Kowtow
his
to him.
ego to keep the British happy. And
now that's actually a little bit of a myth that comes out of the movie Patton, because they make a big deal out of that. But in fact, that was only one factor. It was a factor, but it was only one factor.
Market Garden was
trying
a mistake that should never have happened.
That's true. What they were trying to do was keep Britain in the game as much as anything.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's
Britain was pretty fucking tired by this time.
Yeah, and I mean, and Montgomery was full of piss and vinegar and great at pomp, so it was.
Well,
you need
he had to make his mark.
You need golden boys like that,
right?
To keep the war bond purchases coming, so to speak. You know, and Britain was.
Actually, that's a good point.
Yeah, war weary. And rightly so.
Yeah.
But there was no way that we could carry the weight of it all.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was thinking about the men. But
war would have lasted to 1950.
You're talking about the English people, and you're absolutely right. Is the English people had to be kept involved too?
Well, yeah. I mean,
they were tired too. It wasn't just the men.
Well, the war had come to them
in
the worst possible ways, and they carried the brunt of the angst and then the early days for so long. I mean, we were immediately engaged in the Pacific theater after the attack on Pearl Harbor, but our European engagement, as far as relieving what the British were most concerned about, was later in coming. Yeah. And they had the whole of North Africa, and the fact that Vichy France sat within a bird's flight from their shores. You know, there was a lot to be anxious about, and there was a heavy toll in loss. I mean, just sheer numbers. I mean, my admiration for the British wherewithal during World War II is boundless.
Yeah.
Because,
but you know, I'm going to say, you know,
had we not entered the war, though,
well, it would be a very different Europe right now.
No shit.
You think Russia would be different? Holy crap! Yeah, it would be a boiling pot of trouble.
It would have ignited
happened.
into another war.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're absolutely
It
right.
never.
I think that's an inescapable.
With a madman like Hitler, yeah, it was inescapable. He would have not been able to.
He wasn't going to get well.
He wasn't going to get he certainly wasn't going to get any better psychiatrically, and he was not going to be able to manage Germany, much less any territory he claimed. And there were too many ruthlessly ambitious fucks roaming around that would have.
Yeah.
He would have been fragged by.
After the summer of 44 plotters were,
Yes.
rooted out, so much of the militant of opposition to Hitler was dead at that point. I mean, it's a good thing Hitler lost the war in Europe, because.
Well, what was he going to do with Italy? I mean, what was he going to do with Italy?
He was going to cut them loose.
Yeah, because with Mussolini,
cut them loose.
With Mussolini done in by his own people, and the Russians were going to get around to fighting back, big time.
Yeah.
After the tides turned, they would have got. I mean, they would have just seized territory in Eastern Europe and said, it's ours now. You don't really want to try to take it again, do you? Particularly since you like to start these campaigns in October, you schmuck.
Yeah, I think they would have had a lot of success.
Mussolini did help the Russians out because he wanted to play Mary in Greece so badly. Hitler divided his forces and completely fucked it up.
Mm-hmm. Greece was a disaster.
Well, if it hadn't been for Mussolini and Hitler's perverse loyalty to him, he would have gotten into Russia earlier. But nope, you had to send half your forces prancing off to Greece and turn it into a big old mess. And then they have to come roaming back up through Macedonia to try to catch up to everybody else. And then you show up like Napoleon did. And when Hitler it starts to snow.
Yeah, well, Hitler was looking at a map and said, well, they can just march there.
Yeah.
And sometimes marching there, was marching hundreds of miles over mountainous terrain.
Or around mountains and that kind of stuff.
It's just an implementation detail.
Yeah.
It's implementation detail.
Hannibal's on line 1 for you, Dolphy. It's not as easy as you think it is. It's absolutely ridiculous. And, what the insanity of Hitler declaring war on the United States. I mean, it was just like, yes, my good allies, Japan, so I think I'll just throw it. What the hell did he think was going to result from that? Did he think it would get our notice?
Yeah.
Like, okay, it's not Lend-Lease anymore. It's let's go.
Don't let's be beastly to the Germans.
Yes, let's be. At least to that Nimrod. Napoleon was a far, far, far better strategist than Adolf Hitler, and he still fucked it in Russia.
Yeah, he made the same mistake.
Yeah, it won't be bad. Of course, he also hit a winter that it was so bad that birds were freezing in the air as they flew. I mean, that's
even if he'd had a normal winter, he was done.
No, he was done, and there was no. I never understood that either. It was like, good God, you imbecile! You had the heart of Europe,
and
if
he consolidated his power,
and you managed to kill a whole bunch of people, and then lose a portion of your advantage therein.
He was
against England.
He was addicted to the process.
Yeah, he was
of obtaining power. I think.
Yeah, he almost won Waterloo because the British were addicted to fucking around with their former colonists. They Wellington lost troops here. in the War of 1812. He lost troops and he lost generals.
Yes.
And it meant he was, if it hadn't been for Blucher, I hate to say this because I'm sure it upsets certain British people, but really Blucher was there's no way to describe what kind of help he was to Wellington.
It's
Essential. Yeah. And I mean, he baited and switched, and the French made a mistake and went chasing after him, they thought, and he had turned and come back, and they missed him. They just,
well, yeah, because they
went scampering off after what they thought were the
went
Prussians.
to
Yeah.
the northeast side, and he had already come around to the
Southwest.
southwest side. And he fell on their flank.
But it was after Quatre Bras, I think.
Yeah.
He baited them, and it was ingenious because Blucher got to Waterloo, back to the actual battlefield with his forces in time to
well, that was the
force reduction.
That was the force reduction. That road where they encountered Napoleon's troops and just mowed them down. I mean, killed them. The L'Avenue. They just call it L'Avenue in Waterloo. Everybody knows what you're talking about. It doesn't even exist anymore. Now it's just a place in a field there at the memorial.
Mhm.
But it used to be, the road into town. And it's funny. I used to park my bike there. We'd ride down to the thing, and we would look for coins and bullets in the field there. Just wander around, just like you would, just like I did years later at Manassas. It's actually a pretty cool place.
That was quite a veer that I took us on. I mean, we went from
that's the fun thing about long
it is
conversation. So
the funny thing is today, after Cree finished dinner, he said, okay, the second half of my sandwich, because he brought home half his hoagie. I'll use the term hoagie today. And he said was
what
great.
What part of the country is this lady from?
I just borrowed that. I could have said grinder. I could have said submarine. It's,
Cool thing is that you know that.
Yeah. It's just all the different for the long sandwich. But anyway, he finished his sub, and then he had some onion dip and Frito scoops because the boy's addicted to them. But he came up to me and he said the sub was great, the chips and dip were great, but the M&Ms were a bridge too far. And I said, M&M's in Market Garden.
Yeah.
How did this happen? And I was like, we have the strangest conversations, like we do here. Cree and I have the same kind of conversations where we lose half the room. Where I was like, so were the M&Ms at Remagen? And he looks at me and I was like, now that is Market Garden, right? And he said, yes, it is.
Yeah, that was.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, good. We're on the same page. Don't generally analogize M&Ms to Remagen, except in our household. Aren't we clever? But we're just peculiar. That's all it is.
Yeah.
We're just peculiar. Speaking of peculiar, let's do a little segue, shall we?
Let's do that.
I came across a peculiar story. And this peculiar story involves the fact, number one, that there's a Human Rights Commission in Dedham, Massachusetts. So I'd like everybody to try that on for a little. This, what the fuck, man?
This is a town with 25,364 people.
You looked it up. Thank you.
Census.
Thank you. Okay, I figured it. I knew it wasn't much larger than the town I grew up in up there. And so, but Dedham has a Human Rights Commission because you need to ensure that all people can have their rights respected. And there was a bit of a dust up recently in beautiful little Dedham. There was and there's this Human Rights Commission is made up of, let me see, there are 10 people, and from the 2018 photo of the Human Rights Commission. But this Human Rights Commissioner person has resigned after she lost her shit on Facebook at a bunch of people during a controversy over a Christmas tree in a local library.
Oh, what happened?
Oh, this chick.
Yes. Yeah. The one that came completely unhinged in a public space. There was a librarian who was really kind of upset about the fact that there was people complaining about their annual Christmas tree, and it had been canceled to prevent offending people because trees with lights on them offend people, apparently. You know, it's the fuck, man. I don't get that, okay? I just don't understand why people can't walk past a tree with lights on it and go, yeah, follow fucking law and move on with their lives. But they can't. So this woman had gone on Facebook, and the manager of the local branch library, and said, I've never posted a negative post on Facebook. That is until now. I found out today my beautiful library will not have its Christmas tree this year. When I asked, I was told people were made uncomfortable last year looking at it. I'm sorry, what? In my 28 years at the Dedham Public Library, I've never heard a negative comment, she continued. She noted that the town historically had celebrated, included everyone in their community, and she happily participated in a Juneteenth celebration at the library. So this chick who was appointed to the Human Rights Commission in Dedham by the town's Commission on Disability reportedly called Desmond a selfish fucking bitch in a subsequent Facebook post. I'm filling in the blanks in this article. That accused her of endangering lives by raising the issue. Okay, I've heard of upping the ante, guys, but what the fuck is endangering lives by posting about a Christmas tree? So, can we spot the mentally ill person in this conversation?
I think we can.
I think it is this individual on the Human Rights Commission, because it sounds to me like maybe somebody's off their meds. For a tree, for a motherfucking tree, you put people's lives in a lot of danger, she wrote to her. Addressing others, she speculated, might also have been responsible for bringing the controversy to wider attention. She continued in part, I hope the fact that you, who claim to believe in Christ and Christmas or whatever happy horse shit you're trying to hide behind, are the least, I hope you know the fact that she didn't say because obviously without her meds, her writing skills fall apart. But whatever happy horse shit you're trying to hide behind, are the least gracious, most hateful, most disgusting trash in the world. Is this what your magical sky daddy wants? Where in the Bible was this again? She also wrote. That's my favorite thing.
That is so painful.
I know. That's my favorite thing that people do. Where's the Christmas tree in the Bible?
Do fuck off. Do it today.
Seriously. Prince Albert is on line 1 and would like a word.
Yeah.
You know, it's just calm down. In closing, I'd like to add, fuck you, you pieces of trash. I hate each and every one of you, and I do wish you great suffering. You're terrible, terrible people, and you did it all because you didn't get your way. You're despicable.
So there.
Now, they go on, because this is Fox, to have to further paint this woman as odder, perhaps, than she's already managed to do on her own because she participated earlier this year in an LGBT pride event hosted by the town of Dedham and its Human Rights Commission, where she was joined by her grown child, Max, who, in quote, discovered his transgender identity at the age of 13. According to the local outlet Patch. I think it's really important for everybody to be celebrated and feel affirmed, she had said at the time. So everybody can be celebrated and feel affirmed except you filthy fucking pieces of trash Christians who want a Christmas tree.
Right. No Christmas tree for you.
Yeah. And this is what's really sad. This is how upset people get. The lady who wrote the original post called the police about the response she was getting on social media and people who were complaining Christmas tree supporters of exhibiting Christian privilege.
Christian privilege. You know, I actually think that people 20 years from now will look back to this period of time and think, what an insane time this was. I'm so glad we got past that. They're going to look at this like we think of disco and parachute pants. It just stuff.
And the amount of cocaine going in and out of Studio 54, yes.
Exactly. Well, the silly disco period where we just sort of collectively lost our minds and music got bad for a little while.
Now, the Human Rights Commission, after this individual stepped down from her position, said they sincerely appreciate her service and look forward to working with the Commission on Disabilities to find a representative to take her place. I'm wondering what her disability is. I think it might be utterly lacking, or maybe would it be retarded rationales?
What is her name?
These invective slinging cunt's name?
Yes. What is her name?
Her name is Diane Loud. Loud.
Is it really?
Yes, isn't that? I mean, it was prophetic the day she was named.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Hold on.
I've seen a picture of her. She's a charmer.
Oh my God, are you kidding me?
Crazy.
Oh my. This is just exactly what you think of when you think of this kind of a committee. I'm going to show the Human Rights Committee to you. This is too good. So let's do that. And these people look exactly like I thought they would look like.
Yes, including a Karen Bob. Karen's sitting next to Diane. There's Santa Claus, then there's Karen.
That's Karen, yeah.
Yeah, with the hair. I mean, the Karen haircut.
With the Karen hair, right?
And then
exactly.
then Diane Loud is the one smiling real broadly in the charcoal gray cardigan. And then Sotomayor Jr. is next to her.
Yeah,
I like big. I know, but and then the guy on the far right in the back kind of looks like the one dude they got that might have taken a finance class. Santa Claus looked like he just wandered into the meeting.
Yeah,
and everybody else looks like, we even have problematic glasses in the back row.
Santa Claus was probably the homeless guy who was just already in the chair. What were you going to say, Harry?
Well, the guy in the more or less the middle of the back row. I'm surprised he isn't wearing a T-shirt that just says "Ally" in big letters on it.
I know.
Doesn't he just radiate male feminist?
There's a chance that Santa Claus, though, could be their IT guy. he's just been around a long
Nah,
time.
he'd have suspenders. A guy that old with a beard who does IT probably has suspenders too.
And
In my
IT guys
experience.
don't. Yeah, IT guys do not wear a shirt like that.
Yeah,
looks
they'd
No.
they'd have it, but yeah.
I assure you, that guy is on some
Now
sort of
Cree owns
disability,
shirts like that,
probably.
but he
And,
also owns suspenders.
He's probably lifetime disabled on the dole.
Yeah, apparently whatever induced the lovely sweet smile on this woman's face in the photograph, those drugs wore off. And then the bad demons came back in and told her to call everybody trash who likes Christmas
Yes.
trees. I swear to God, though, I read that story and it was like, this is so cringe. It's just
We're from the Town Human Rights Commission. We're here to judge you. And here is your judging panel.
yeah.
Biggest smiles they could muster.
And honest to God, and I swear the throwback 60s hairdo of the chick on the back row,
Oh yeah.
it's just cracking me up.
The big hair or the
big hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just know that those meetings must be amazing.
99 spends too much time making herself look good.
99, yeah.
Yeah.
But she's got the Christy Winters expression.
Yeah, and the little pig face glasses. Ugh.
Yeah, well, the problematic glasses. Yes.
Yeah,
So
problematic.
which fine publication is this?
That's Fox.
This no, this is actually
Had the same
I think
picture.
it's a Daily Mail.
Yeah.
Mail. But
Hmm.
it's just a reprinting Fox. Yeah, I'm sure it's reprinting Fox.
I'm kind of interested in this headline to the right about they're saying Elon's decided to stop paying rent on offices and properties.
On the San Francisco headquarters and offices around the world.
That sounds like bullshit. And not paying severance to axed employees.
No,
That's nonsense. You can't do that.
You can't-
first of
Yeah.
all.
yeah.
That's against the
exactly.
law. The
I mean, he
Fair
could
Employment
stop-
Practices law.
He could then terminate the leases because he's got rid of so many people and consolidate.
Depends on the lease.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah. What are the terms on the lease? And or he could move SpaceX people into the space and that the Twitter people aren't occupying. I'd loved Monkey's tweet the other day about, hey, all y'all who are no longer at Twitter because you obviously weren't essential. What were you doing? Because, you know, an awful lot of people apparently no longer work at Twitter, but the site is functioning.
Mhm.
Isn't that remarkable?
Yeah, this will never happen. But I would love to have a productivity audit
Oh, Christ.
of each worker.
5
worked
guys at
at
Ernst and
Twitter.
Young just got hard.
Yeah, exactly.
And they don't know why. But
Yeah,
some guy just said productivity audit.
Yeah. No, they would find that Twitter was just wasting salary money, just essentially was a high class welfare operation with, there were probably 15-20% of the people doing the actual hardcore programming work, and then a bunch of other people standing around judging them, or saying things about the work or handling something peripheral. They were not line programmers. They were staff pukes, and who grew like mushrooms, and you need some staff people. God, I was a supply corps officer in the Navy. Nobody knows that better than I do. But you don't need all these
25
safety.
to 1.
Yeah, it's these safety engineers, to know who to kick off Twitter. That Vijaya thing, the
And
The-
Yoel and the whole
and
crowd of them.
Yoel sounds like a person who is not well psychologically balanced. He sounds like he's been running hot for a long time.
Yeah, and I think the JJ has been too.
I think
She's
getting
got
out of that,
axes to grind.
but I think getting out of position probably saved his life. I
Might
think I
have.
see signs of a guy who was, he's going to be very relieved to take his severance check and slip away into the dark. There's some of these people want to indict him. Have you heard about that, Harry?
I've heard about it. I don't really know much about it.
Yeah.
What?
Well, yeah. Just wondered if
I
anyone
wish they'd
else.
just let them slither away. And, by and large, what Elon's doing is the right thing. Reveal, pull the curtain back and let's see what was being said inside the company by these principal actors. It's a little bit like finding out about what's been going on inside the FBI. I mean, the most troubling thing, this focusing on Trump getting kicked off for whatever reason is all fine and dandy, right? But the most troubling thing to me to be revealed of late is the fact that we had government agencies meeting with social media people leading up to an election.
That's a huge problem.
It is Banana Republic on steroids problem. This is the old Soviet system.
But it's never been addressed before. This was cyberspace is largely unfarmed land in a legal sense.
Yeah, it's just whether there is anything illegal that took place. No, but the optics are horrible. The optics are straight out of why there were the two news agencies in Russia to just pretend that there was differing opinion. You have Izvestia, you have TASS, Pravda, and then you had TASS as the other, but just what the fuck?
Yeah.
This is trash.
Burning was the Soviet wire service.
Wire service. Yeah, it was their AP.
Right, exactly right.
But Pravda and Izvestia. We have Channel 4 and Channel 4 Prime. Enjoy.
By the way, Pravda was given to the broadcasted stuff, and Izvestia was the printed
stuff. Yeah. But it's just like saying CBS and New York Times.
Exactly right.
Or any of them. And I mean, I listen.
House organs.
I listened to a local newscast discussing what the Twitter thread that is it Michael Sellenberger, MD, had put out on this tranche of Twitter stuff that came out.
Mm-hmm.
And
Matt Taibbi and what's her face?
And God damn it.
Good old what's her face?
Barry
Weiss, thank you.
Barry Weiss. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, and then this fellow was tweeting rather extensively on it. And I had read a good bit of his thread, and then I watched this report on my local NBC affiliate, and wow, was it carefully curated. And I thought, you shitbags.
Mm-hmm.
You're curating what is available to read on this story because you're caught with your fly open too. You're all in on it. And we knew that to a certain extent. And as we've discussed before, Trump playing Toto and pulling the curtain back on the wizard.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it rustled a lot of jimmies.
Yep.
But the uniformity of reportage, particularly during the Black Jesus period, followed immediately by the Trump TDS period,
Right.
It's just like, yeah, none of y'all have anything to say. It's like it's all coming from central command, and you vomit it
You've
out.
seen the meme
It's worse than network.
videos where they do have like 20 different stations all saying the same
Yes.
phrase at the same time.
Yeah,
I mean that's real. That is a
absolutely.
thing.
We canceled our local newspaper because they were reprinting nothing but Washington Post articles.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So
And Cree
just
said,
keep taking the introductory offers to the Post. That's what I
yeah,
say.
because Cree was like, "What? Why am I getting this paper?
Yep.
I can go to Go Comics and get the funny pages." And he said, because that's pretty much all I'm reading anymore, because the rest of it is the funny farm pages. It's just, we laughed about TDS, then we realized how real TDS was. Then we saw TDS being used kind of almost as an excuse for incredibly bad behavior. Peter Strzok, I'm looking in your direction. And basically wiretapping the White House when Trump was on the way in. That kind of, you can't defend against leaks like that when they're built into
when they're kind of,
when they're being run by the intelligence agencies in the country.
You're just sort of screwed before you start.
Yeah. And I mean, it's kind of like when John Brennan comments on anything, I just simply feel like there should be a giant air horn blasted off. Like, look at this lying piece of shit going at it again. Or Christopher Wray, because Christopher Wray is whatever flavor of bullshit heads the FBI. I mean, the FBI is not fit for purpose. They are so...
No, they're not.
They're so infiltrated by politics. At the head, I mean, I feel badly for all those field agents that are out there doing their jobs. But what exists in Washington is a goddamn human centipede of politics. Everybody's head farther up the ass of the person above them.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I had no idea. Who's been running the FBI for the last 20 years? Everybody wants to make it sound like J. Edgar Hoover was horrible.
He was. He was
These
horrible.
people are making him look benign.
Yeah. And they probably like to dress up too.
Deliver me from that thought.
Yeah.
I'm seeing Comey in a bustier is not what I want to see.
Oh, no.
Or Chris Wright. But, he was... Hoover had been driven crazy by hunting communists.
Yeah.
And the fact that he was a little crazy anyway.
Yeah. His mother took care of him when he was a lad.
Yeah, it messed him up
never
good.
Had a chance. Yeah. Mom
took
care of that.
But we've... the guy that ran the nascent CIA, Wild Bill Donovan, was a bit of a crazy man too.
Yes.
And that's an organization that should have ceased after the war.
That was a...
But there were commies to hunt.
Wild was not a nickname that everybody got. That was in the era of understatement.
Yes.
And that certainly was an understatement in his case.
No, very useful in wartime. That kind of an organization, extremely useful.
Oh God, yeah.
In wartime, but
the things they did, the chances they took.
Yeah.
Oh my.
But you don't.
We're just going to parachute into occupied France, okay?
But you don't keep them intact.
Yeah.
They became a government agency of like forward operators.
Yep.
Which is fine during the war, like I said.
You're talking about OSS, right?
OSS, yeah, and then it morphed into the CIA.
Yeah.
But then you had all the commies to hunt,
Mhm.
and you had incredible infiltration and manipulation going on in the federal government to begin with from the Soviets, which fed into our building this kind of security apparatus, which half of it's
That's right.
theater and the other half of it is full of really scary, ambitious people who are extra governmental.
Yeah. Plenty good money to be made supplying the army with the tools of the trade.
Or the ghetto with the tools of destruction.
Right, exactly.
You know, I remember the first time I heard this whole CIA plot. I thought, okay, what kind of crazy person came up with that thought?
Mm.
And then piece by piece by piece, more stories come out. Like a DEA agent
Yeah.
being done in Mexico. And oh, the CIA happened to be there. How peculiar. Yeah, it's why, though. Okay,
The
why?
problem with any big conspiracy that has any visibility at all is that the pressure to break the cartel behavior, which is what a conspiracy is, that's cartel behavior. The pressure to break cartel behavior always breaks cartels. That's why cartels always end up destroyed, is because someone will break with the rest of the cartel.
Mm. Well, we saw what happened to the president that said he wanted to bust up the organization and scatter it into 1,000 pieces. I guess everybody got a little concerned about saying anything like that again.
Mhm.
Or doing anything like that again. But, you know, Jesus Christ. It's so depressing. And to realize that, I mean, I understand that ambition and evil can walk hand in hand, frequently do, and have throughout history. I'm not unaware of the Borgias. I'm not unaware of what Florence was like.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you had great art and you had amazing corruption. Of course, nobody does politics like the Italians, but they're so fabulous at it.
I read
So
the
fabulously
account
bad at it.
I read the account of the arrest and trial of Savonarola. What a time to be alive!
No kidding.
What a time to be alive, and to be burned at the stake in the square of the town that you were responsible for so much of its.
For the destruction of the art of the place.
Yeah.
Jesus God convinced Botticelli to throw his own paintings on the fire. Oh my God.
Yeah. Botticelli burning his
own works. Yeah. That's terrifying to me. It is amazing though, because what's the line from Dune about fear is the mind ripper?
Yeah, fear is the mind killer.
Mind killer. Yeah.
Fear is the mind killer.
And we have seen a lot of people's minds, they're functioning like automatons because their minds are dead. You know, they're just, it is amazing that we had gotten so lazy that you could use a combination of things, the political landscape in the country, and a pandemic, to turn normally rational people into 17th century Salem
howlers.
Just fucking nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just I wish Crosby, Stills, and Nash, when they'd written "Teach Your Children," and said, finished with "to be iconoclasts."
Yeah. That was definitely
to be skeptical.
That was the idea they were trying to get across. That song was written at a time when David Crosby was very close friends with Paul Kantner and that lot over at the Jefferson Airplane. So he's very, very influenced by their political philosophy too, because he's too stupid to have one of his own.
Well, yeah, but yes, he is. He's profoundly stupid.
Profoundly stupid.
Graham Nash is the only one I'd cross the street to spit on if he was on fire, and even he's a dope.
He's just stupid. I can forgive just stupid.
He's good naive. He's like neutral naive.
Yeah.
Instead of chaotic evil.
Yeah. I mean, Steven Still's been reading his own press notices for so long he thinks his shit doesn't stink and acts accordingly.
Yeah.
Neil Young is a
tedious
weirdo who takes himself even more seriously than Stills does. David Crosby is one of the most reprehensible, stupid human beings. Talented, admittedly talented, but other than that, has nothing to commend himself as a human being. Nothing.
There are a lot of vacuous
history. Nothing.
A lot of vacuous people out of that time frame who circled around each other too. Like I love Joni Mitchell. She's incredibly creative and just kind of amazing. But she's
I want to listen to her music. I don't want to have dinner with her. Yeah, she's dumb as a post.
Joan Baez was about the only one that seemed to break the cognitive dissonance when I remember her calling Jane Fonda out when Fonda was bitching about Cambodian refugees or something. And Vietnamese and Cambodian refugees. And she said, for God's sakes, Jane, we wrought some of this.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well then, Joan, because I never held any of those people in great esteem because they never made any sense.
Mm. I'm a big Joan Baez fan, actually, except that I disagree with her about a lot of her political positions.
But I mean, at least she was consistent there.
Well, she's contributed a lot to life. A little
smarter than the other crowd.
Not the least of which is she wrote the song Luba and the Baroness, which is one of my favorite songs by her. Just a wonderful song. Little vignette in 3 parts. Very cool song.
Yeah, there's
a lot of good hidden songs with Joan Baez. If you go through her catalog, they're some pretty interesting and fun and quirky little songs. Of course I like folk singing anyway. So if you like that, it can be fun too.
Terrible earworm the other day because I was listening to Graham Nash talking about writing Our House.
Mm-hmm. It's a very, very, very fine house.
Yeah. It was when he was living with Joni Mitchell. And
I was thinking you said our town, and I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what happened is in my own head, I began mixing up the CSN thing with the other song, Our House, in the middle of our street.
By Madness, the ska band. Yeah, I remember
love that song.
Our House. Yeah, in the middle of
our street.
Our house.
Yeah, it's
I know it's
they're a lot of fun. But what was also happening?
Aren't they really terrific instrumentalists?
Mm-hmm.
Am I thinking of the same one? They're just like band nerds deluxe.
Yeah, kind of like there's a lot of
yeah.
I think so. Then what was happening though is I had also heard Sweet Judy Blue Eyes, which I think I'm going to say that way forever, so people realize there's a reason for the pause because it's SUITE,
right?
Judy Blue Eyes,
but it's a pun.
Yeah,
know what I mean,
yeah, it is.
Knowing look,
and that was that was Stills, right? Who wrote that?
Well, yeah, he and Jackson Brown were passing Joni Mitchell back and forth by then.
Yeah, but that wasn't about Joni.
No,
That
no,
was,
no, it
that
wasn't.
was Judy Collins,
I
wasn't
was just
it?
saying. Though that's what the song was about, but they had moved on by then.
Yeah, but Joni isn't sweet. She isn't Judy Blue Eyes.
No. Judy Collins.
Judy Collins was Judy Blue Eyes. Yeah.
She was she Graham Nash's girlfriend or who?
No, that was
Girlfriend was she?
Joni. That was Joni. Was Graham Nash's girlfriend?
No, she was
Yes,
David
she was.
Crosby's. I thought she was
No,
David Crosby.
Joni was Graham Nash's girlfriend. He wrote Our House about an event in their lives.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
And then
I
she
just
wrote,
remember that.
oh God, I'm trying to remember the song she wrote because she bolted without saying goodbye. He found out they'd broken up through a telegram, I think. And I can't remember what song she wrote about that. As long as I'm not mixing up who broke up with who when, yeah, but there was a whole lot of borderline musical incest going on, for want of a better term. But yeah, no, Judy Collins, because she was the chestnut brown canary. Ruby-throated sparrow, sing a song, don't belong.
Throw me to the
marrow. Yeah, that damn song though is a fucking earworm. I mean, it is. It's just for some reason it just gets in there, and it's like Marrakesh Express is, because it's Marrakesh Express is jaunty, and so we're riding on the Marrakesh Express. It's like a fucking commercial jingle that you're like, go away, please go away. So I was having a terrible time with my earworms for a while. It's usually when I'll tee up a YouTube video by Rick Beato or something and go listen to it different. Have either of you seen Beato's top 10 songs of the 70s?
Rick Beato's
Not
top 10
recently.
songs?
Yeah.
Not recently. I've seen a bunch of his stuff. I'm sure I have seen it, but
well, no, this is reasonably recent that he did it.
Oh, then I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it actually was a pretty fair list.
He seems like a pretty fair guy.
Best songs of the 70s. He actually top 20 songs, and he did that for the 80s too. And I just had to laugh because, of course, Flock of Seagulls made the list. And, the internet is forever, but that Iran, anytime somebody would mention the country Iran, somebody would have to say Iran so far away. Yeah, I was like, take that off the list, Rick. It got turned into a tedious meme.
Funny thing about Nash and Mitchell breaking up, I had to
Google it.
I had to reinstate the memory. But anyway, since breaking up 50 years ago, Nash and Mitchell have remained in touch. The Guardian asked Nash if he sees Mitchell now. This is in the Guardian. He replied, I do. I sent her a bunch of pictures I took of her. She loved them enough to want to use them as album covers. And of course, I gave them to her completely for free, of course.
Yeah.
Jesus. Why would that even occur to you to utter that?
Completely for free, of course.
Yeah. Look how wonderful I am.
Yeah. See how generous I am.
See,
like I told you, Graham is only marginally less annoying than the rest of them. He's just not as much of a dick, and he was in better bands. The Hollies, and I mean, he just did some better stuff, I think. Although it kills me that the song from the CSN album that came out in the 70s that I love the most, the Southern Cross song, that Stills wrote that. No, it was just the album CSN.
Yeah, it was also on Four Way Street. They performed the live album. They
Okay.
performed it live,
Yeah.
and I love that version better. I love the live version. It's much longer, much better than the uh, uh,
Yeah.
album.
I like
cut.
I like
The album
Dark
cut's too
Star,
short.
but it's not as good as Southern Cross. I think that's the best song on the album, but
Yep.
that's me. It's just something about the construct of the song is just pure CSN. And I mean, they had a long run with a lot of decent hits that infest my damned brain.
Yeah, me too. How many times have you listened to the song "For Dead in Ohio"?
I turn it off every time it comes on because it infuriates me. It absolutely infuriates me.
Exactly.
Tin soldiers and Nixon coming. Shut up. You know, it's the way it's why I love Sweet Home Alabama so much because
Southern man don't need you around anyhow.
yeah. I mean, it's like every time I hear Neil Young, that's what I hum to myself. I'm like, fuck off, prick.
Yeah, it's
Well, Southern Man's an annoying song. Okay.
oh yeah,
It's just an annoying, preachy, bullshit, you don't know what you're talking about song. So it's
if you want to see Neil get his comeuppance, he actually had the gall in the star-studded review of people all playing the let's see, what is it, the oh it's one of the old Dylan anthems. Anyway, a bunch of people got together, Eric Clapton, Neil Young, the axe murderer guy who used to head up the bands on Saturday Night Live, G.E. Smith. He was there. Let's see, George Harrison, Bob Dylan was up there, guitar in hand, saying a verse, and just everybody in the world up there. And so Neil Young plays this, fairly forgettable lead. They break and he plays a lead, and then Clapton plays the lead.
That's bad.
Boy,
that's bad positioning. That's all I've got to say.
You don't want to be in front of Eric Clapton.
Yeah, and he's not even as fabulous a guitar as some other people out there, but
he's not in the top. Eric Clapton is not in the top 5,000. He's probably in the top 1,000 guitarists in the world, but he's in the lower part of the 1,000.
Mm-hmm. Why can't you just bring Jimi Hendrix back for a moment? It just tickles me.
Hendrix was an innovator. That was the big thing that he did. He
was just out right on the edge.
He was making up guitar techniques that nobody had thought of, and a lot of the moves that people go. I mean, there's a chord that any guitarist will know what this is. The Jimi Hendrix chord. Everybody knows it's the E7 sustained, on the 7th fret, and everybody knows that chord. Jimi Hendrix invented the chord. It's like the Steely Dan chord. That doesn't happen very often.
He also did a better job with All Along the Watchtower than Dylan could.
Yeah.
Dylan's a great songwriter. He just shouldn't sing his shit. Yeah,
he should not sing.
Yeah, the difference in John Denver is other people could sing his shit and he could sing his shit.
You can use the guitar when you go to your room, Bob. When you come out of your room, you have to leave the guitar back there. Remember, no singing. Just give us the paper.
That's right. We like the paper. The paper is very, very good. But
here's your money. Go away.
Please don't. Just put duct tape over his face.
What's your opinion of Van Morrison?
It's a marvelous night for a moon dance. I love that song.
So do I.
It's one of my favorites.
Brown-Eyed Girl ever. I love Brown-Eyed Girl, but it got overplayed. But Moondance is wonderful.
Yep.
So
That
the
was
thing about Van Morrison is he does this thing where I think he thinks he's in the Vivaldi's choir, where they do this sort of synthetic echo thing, where he'll just sort of repeat a line as if it's sort of an echo, but he does it really poorly. So everything will be going just fine, and then he'll just start repeating something in an echo-like fashion, but ineptly. And it really kind of throws you out of the music, I think.
Oh, like you think he's being antiphonal?
Take me way back, way back, way back. You know, it's just the way he
oh,
does it
I
is
get
just
you.
the way he does it. It just kind of breaks the immersion.
It's ungraceful. Yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah. Well,
It's
that's a
out
much
of the
nicer
mood.
word than the word that was in my mind, which was inept.
It's out of the mood of the rest of the song, and somebody somebody needs to point that out to him. But the problem is these guys, a guy like Van Morrison, he's worth so much money just as a franchise. He's, they don't hear the word no often enough. People who will tell you no, people who will back you off, people who will give you good, clear, concise criticism when the situation is appropriate and called for, those are your best friends. And I don't think Van Morrison has very many people like that in his life.
Kanye needs at least one.
Jesus
Oh
Christ.
God!
I don't
needs
think
a
he can
brain
hear him
transplant.
anymore. That's just, and it's, I swear to God. I just
Never saw a tweet cost $1 billion before.
watch this.
Yeah, look higher.
Hey, y'all, hold my beer.
Yeah,
Oh
exactly.
my God. It's just, it's one thing to be a skeptic. It's another thing to be inept at it.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? There are gifted ways to raise questions, even very difficult ones,
Yes.
where you can say before hurling invective at me, this is a thought experiment or something,
Yeah.
rather than, hey, y'all, what about,
Well, saying that you're going to go nuclear on some group of religious people, which is essentially what he said, is that's
he done lost his mind.
yeah. It takes a lot for me to brand something as hate speech, but that was pretty hatefully inspired, in my opinion. That came from an emotional, angry,
It can't, yeah,
kinda
he's an easily
reaction to-
manipulated man.
Yes, I would agree with
This
you.
is quite apparent. And of course, Nick Fuentes is riding his coattails, which is adorable. Absolutely adorable. I mean, Nick is a lolcow.
He's a lolcow, but he needs killing.
And
I know we can't really say that. He doesn't really
no,
need
he needs
killing, but
a little
that's
buck
an
fight.
expression in Texas.
He's David Hogg, okay? The
Yeah,
Bach
he
Pfeifen Gesicht exists.
The
There is a
punchable
face
face
just needs to have the
that you talk
shit
about.
slapped out of it.
And what is that again? What is it called?
Bach Pfeifen Gesicht is the word.
Backpfeifengesicht?
Backpfeifengesicht. Yes.
Backpfeifengesicht. The punchable face. I love the way that the German
It's the
language
Britisher, God
invents
love him,
things.
who pulled that up. And speaking
Well,
of that, David
yeah,
Hogg, and
you were the one who told me about
I
it.
latched onto it like a remora. It's that entertaining a word. It's fun to say. I mean,
Ripping fun to
Weltschmerz.
say.
Well, like Weltschmerz is kind of fun to say when you're speaking of distasteful world weariness. But there's nothing like Backpfeifengesicht. Weltanschauung can't even come close. Or Ersatz or Zeitgeist.
Kunstwollen.
Yeah. Backpfeifengesicht. It's
My favorite is Doppelganger.
Doppelganger. And it's something people accidentally.
Oh, are you in a gang, Bobby?
Well, they
yeah, we all look alike. What's the name of your
Doppelganger.
gang?
The doppelgangers. And people accidentally pronounce it correctly because of how we pronounce A's. German, that awful German language, to quote Mark Twain.
Mm-hmm.
It's a marvelous essay. So entertaining. As is most of Twain.
I was going to say he didn't write a lot of boring stuff.
Yeah, you know, Tom Sawyer is kind of drags at points. Huck Finn doesn't.
That's why Huck Finn is a better book.
Oh yeah, it's great. I mean, you need to read Tom Sawyer to have kind of the background. I mean, you don't have to, but it's a good idea to do it.
You need to know something about whitewashing pensions.
Yep. But I found Tom Sawyer to be okay, you know, but then I started reading Huck Finn and was like, wow. Just what a ride. What a ride. I was on the damned river with them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the way Twain writes so accessibly.
Yes.
And he doesn't get in his own way.
A lot of writers did that back then. This may surprise you. A lot of it won't surprise you, but it some people might find it surprising that a lot of writers back then were very clear, wrote in a very accessible, very deeply personal style. You've heard me talk about Virginia Woolf.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just something that even the poetry was for the common man.
Yes. Yeah, Whitman's a lot easier to read than some others. I mean, I think it's a little full of itself at times, but it's still not.
Whitman got too famous in his lifetime.
Yeah, he did. He started reading his own press releases and turned into a Hemingway of poetry.
At times, sometimes he was okay though. Particularly his early,
like Frost,
when he was striving,
like Frost.
Yeah, Frost, same thing. Exactly.
You know, and then Frost became self-aware.
Yeah,
you know that some
started writing schlock.
Some of the best poets are those that don't seem to. They don't get. When I was saying Twain didn't get in his own way, that's Hemingway's problem. He's writing around himself. He's writing around the shadow he's casting on everything. He can't separate himself from it because he had rather severe psychological problems, I think. I think that's why he self-medicated to the extent he did. I think it's why he was a thrill seeker to a certain extent. He was in his own way. Fitzgerald isn't. You know, people talk about The Great Gatsby is so much easier to read than anything Hemingway wrote. Except maybe one of Hemingway's short stories because it would finish sooner. But and there's a clever trick that Fitzgerald engages in. The lead character of the novel called The Great Gatsby is an utter cipher in the story. I mean, it makes it infinitely more entertaining. I mean, I went through a phase of liking Salinger, but that's another person that's all up in his own way in writing.
Yeah, I want poets that write things like lines like good men the last wave by, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay, rage against the
dying of the light. Yeah.
I mean, you knew what that was from before I got to the key phrase, didn't you? You knew that it was from Dylan Thomas.
Yeah, Dylan Thomas wrote beautifully. Yeats wrote beautifully.
Yeats is another one. Yeah.
Even though it is full of imagery, some of the romantics wrote beautifully.
Talking about Blake.
Shelley.
Oh, Keats, that lot.
Keats is pretty clear.
Keats is quite clear. Ode on a Grecian Urn.
Yeah, it's a beautiful piece of poetry to me. And I like Shelley's Ozymandias.
Yes, absolutely.
And I like Coleridge. even though
Depends
it
on
is,
the work. Depends
it-
on the work.
yeah, I liked Kubla Khan, and I like the Rime of the Ancient Mariner well enough.
Rime of the Ancient Mariner.
It's
is
long.
It's overrated.
Man, it's long, but it's an interesting tale. But you know, Kipling, reading Kipling's Just So stories
Overdone.
or reading
Yes.
Kipling,
Yeah.
it's just a rollicking good adventure. God damn it! Strap in and
Oh,
enjoy
yeah.
yourself. And these
That was
pompous
my reading.
shit bags like Faulkner,
It's great stuff.
you know, who are lionized.
Mhm.
I can't, for the love of God, understand why people think Faulkner is so important.
Yep. Do you remember the short story by Faulkner that most Virginia high school students had to suffer through called The Bear?
Yes. I had to
Ah.
read The Bear and I had to read A Rose for Miss Emily. What do you think my opinion was formed from? My God, anybody, I'm sorry, but what possesses you to actually publish a story about necrophilia?
Right. Well,
I mean, seriously, you can write that, keep it in the corner, whack off to it if you want to, but you don't have to goddamn publish the thing.
yeah.
And it's just simply because it's just, and now I sound like a prudish, bitchy Karen. But it's like,
No,
you're not
no,
pushing.
no.
You're not pushing the edge. It was like some kind of little edgy boy of his time, and it's like, shut up.
That's
Bill.
exactly what it was. That's exactly what
Look
it
at me
was.
being
He
an
was
edgy boy.
That's
You know,
exactly what it was.
yeah, he would have been. I don't know, man. I think Dankula's got better sense than to publish a story about necrophilia. Just saying.
Yeah.
You know what I
But-
mean? I mean,
Yeah.
he didn't. He's not the one that put that YouTube video on blast. That was quite the accident. That any of that occurred. You know, but it's not running around claiming to be, you know, a Nobel Prize winning.
So you're saying that Count Dankula in his current art,
he's a
his
much
current,
clearer
his-
where than
well,
Faulkner.
in his current form is is not the culmination of a carefully drawn up business plan.
No,
Is that what you're saying? Right there?
no, that is not the culmination of a carefully drawn up business plan. But there is a fair bit of happy accident
Oh my goodness!
because
She's
Mad
wrecking
Lads is
everything.
fabulous.
It is.
It
Yeah.
is and
I
very
love that franchise.
very, very well done, very well presented. I think a lot of people would take one look at Mark Meacham and write him off, and they would be missing out on an extremely intelligent man.
He's a good storyteller. That
Yes.
that thing about the World War I carrier pigeon, he told a story about a bird very, very convincingly. It's pretty hard for me to care enough about a pigeon of any variety that I would listen to somebody talk about him for 20 minutes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But he paints a really good word picture.
he has writers, but he presents the work well.
Hmm.
Um,
Well, it sounds like his own voice. So
Yes.
whoever, either his writers
Edits.
really know him
mhm.
or he's got a real hand in the writing process.
I think it is very much both.
I think
It's-
it would have to be because he's
yeah.
not really an actor.
No, it's authentic. It's authentic.
Yeah, because if he was just reading somebody else's dialogue and it didn't fit his character, it would stand out really quickly.
No, it would be terrible. It wouldn't work at all.
Yeah.
The thing that it is so very authentic, and he's certainly not just some schlub from Schlubville by any stretch. One of the things I certainly didn't enjoy the ordeal he went through. I did, in retrospect, I have quite an appreciation for watching the journey of someone's thinking through that time period. If you know what I mean, the evolution of their point of view on the world and free speech and the importance of it, and very much from an everyman's point of view, which we certainly need the everyman's point of view, because we've got a lot of prosing columnists and writers and whatever who've, the commentariat that have done it, but the commentariat of YouTube, and especially in the free speech side, have done pretty outstanding work in the face of a great deal of pushback. Give them credit. It's a little bit, you've kind of seen Carl Benjamin's maturation as a thinker.
That's been fun to watch.
Yeah, I think the same has occurred with Dank.
Oh, I think so too. He definitely has changed from the irresponsible lout he started out. Kind of presenting himself.
We know who's responsible for that. Bless you, Sue.
Yeah, Susan Kelly. Nay, Susan Kelly. Yes.
Yeah, she's
now Susan Meekin.
Yeah, but it's, how you know that the Mad Lads is authentic is if you watch any of Sue's videos where he's in them, and you know that the tone, the terminology, the way he speaks and handles language stays there, except if they get really Scotsy with each other, and then it's like, what the fuck did either one of them just say?
It's like Scotsmen talking to each other. How can you tell when they start speaking Gaelic? You can't.
Oh, you can. Very much so.
I can't.
Yeah, I mean,
I can't understand tales.
Scots is so different.
Well, I know it's different. I understand the language roots and all that. I'm down with that. My point is that their accents are so
thick.
Profound.
Yeah, how do you tell?
The English part sounds like a different language.
It certainly does, especially if Tailed is talking to another Scotsman.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Oh,
that's when they lose me.
That's when I remember listening to Goodfellas.
I can't decode fast enough too.
Yeah,
because I kind of know a few of
headphones
the
help.
pieces.
Headphones help.
That's for sure.
But yeah, what it takes. Well, I remember trying to listen to Goodfellow one time, and it took about 10 minutes for me to get into his speech pattern so I could understand what he was saying.
Yeah.
Tailed's voice I'm more accustomed to. But yeah, if particularly if the Scotsman in question, both sides have been imbibing, and they begin to speak more Scots than English, it's like, forget it.
Yeah. You're out of the conversation.
I can nothing. Now, we use that in this country. Not often. It's more regional, but we do use Ken.
Oh, yeah. Well, in let's see.
And persnickety.
How do you solve a problem like Maria? There's
simply beyond your ken. Yeah, isn't it? I am 16, going on 17.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, it's
things beyond your ken. That's the line. Yeah, that's how I learned the word.
Things beyond your ken. Yeah,
that's how I learned the word.
That's how I learned it. Also, it's funny how many of my words came from songs.
Yeah.
And fascination with
isn't persnickety of Scots origin too? Pernickety or persnickety, either.
Persnickety. That's a good one to look up. Let's look up
It is a good one.
And there are two iterations, pernickety, which lacks that S, but they mean the same.
Let's see.
Like ornery and ornery.
Let's see. Etymology: Scots persnickety, of uncertain origin. The dictionary of the Scots language says that it resembles intensifying prefix plus nick, but might be derived from particular finicky, with the form influenced by past participles ending in et, which we get, of course, from the French, it from the Dutch, and ed from everybody.
Yeah, the Dutch had more influence on English than I think we know.
Oh, yeah.
Strong trading partners.
Listen to someone speak Dutch sometimes.
Oh, well, the Dutch also speak English the closest to having no accent of any people I've ever heard.
Where do you think we get words like doom, boom, and zoom from? It's all Dutch. They're great lovers of the double O. And,
I always like Corey Ten Boom's name because of that.
Yeah.
Just a fascinating name, you know. You encounter it and you're like, wow, what a cool name. They also left us with things like Skookle.
Like what?
Skookle.
Skookle. Now I know
the river, the Skykel, Skookle, the Skorskill, Catskill, and glorious stuff that came out of them wandering loose in New Amsterdam and its environs. Now the Skookle is in Pennsylvania, and they're Dutch, or actually Deutsch. So
those were the.
But like Stuyvesant, you know, the minute you see that UY construct, you know you're dealing with the Dutch.
Yeah.
And there's some just amazing pronunciations that come from it.
And Dutch is a weird language. If Flemish, which is a form of Dutch, it's a dialect of Dutch, which I heard spoken quite a bit in my youth. It is absolutely incomprehensible to anybody who hasn't heard it before. I mean, it doesn't even have a lot of borrowed words that it doesn't do something hideous to. The Dutch are famous for taking a loaner word and then sticking a Z or a D, a silent DP in front of it, or some stupid thing like that, and ruining the word. They seem to delight in doing it. They got
they just like the Germans.
Country that's always flooding. You know, they hate their lives.
They dislike the Germans first.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because so much of it is related, but it isn't. It's like what you're saying. It's like Dutch Danish. I understand.
People hear Dutch and Deutsch and they think, "Oh, it must be the same language."
God,
nothing could be farther from the truth. They are really, really different, even though there are some real similarities, particularly syntactically.
Yeah. Well, language in Europe is fascinating. You know, Portuguese and Spanish are both Latin.
Not the same. Not the same.
Good God, no. I mean,
go to Portugal and tell them they're speaking Spanish. See what happens.
Well, it depends on whether the commies are in charge or not at the time.
I mean,
it's
no Portuguese likes to be told that he's speaking Spanish.
Well, if you
that sounds like Spanish.
They can't have. They can't have. Apparently, they passed a law that says we have no regular verbs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have no bananas today.
And they especially love it in the tourist things when you come in and you say, "Oh, Portugal, I'm so glad I'll get to use my Spanish." Say that out loud in Portugal.
Well, you know who
That's
made
actually happened.
You know who famously made that mistake? Richard Feynman.
It was Feynman? Yeah.
Yeah, he was going to
that
a
was him.
conference in
God love
Brazil, and he spent
Right.
3 weeks learning Spanish
Learning Spanish. Yeah,
to prepare for going to a conference in Brazil.
Yes.
And
exactly.
even if he'd
Oopsie.
learned Portuguese, particularly if he'd learned like the European Portuguese, he would have been unprepared for Brazil because they speak it slightly differently.
A third of the words are different, and it's spoken at twice the speed.
And it's more elusive and less harsh sounding. The Portuguese I heard spoken on a TAP plane in the 1970s sounded almost Germanic.
Really?
It sounded much more guttural than the Brazilian more elusive sound.
Maybe they were from Argentina.
I don't think so. They could have been from Brazil. Because the
Could
guys
be.
that didn't go to Argentina went to Brazil.
Brazil.
Gisele Bundchen, Tom Brady's ex-wife, is from Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there are a lot. Well, there was mining and agriculture in the south of Brazil, and that drew German immigrants. You know, and it's like Argentina is weird because a lot of Italians and Germans in Argentina.
Do you know how much the Argentinians hate the United States?
I don't
like
care.
us. They don't like us at all.
I don't like them back.
There are a lot of newspapers down there have nothing good to say about the United States.
Like Ecuador made a decision to hate our guts, and it's like, okay,
Yeah, that was sad.
Okay, fine.
Well, there might be some historical basis for that.
It was. There can be historical basis. Chile has more reason to hate us than Ecuador.
Why would Chile hate us? I mean, why would I don't understand why Ecuador would hate us.
Leftover disgust over the assassination of Salvador Allende.
Or what our Marines did to them a long time ago. The literal banana republic nonsense.
Chileans or Ecuador? You're talking about
Ecuador.
Salvador.
No, we also did Ecuador too, didn't we?
I know we Panama and El Salvador.
I'm talking way back, like over 100 years. I'm not talking about current events.
I'm talking about like Teddy Roosevelt years.
Yeah.
That was Central America, wasn't it? I didn't think it went on to the continent of South, actual America Sud.
I'd have to check it. It's not something I've thought about for decades.
I know. I haven't thought about it. Honduras is one of the places we made merry.
I'm actually on the State Department site.
I'll be right back, guys.
That's where you get the honest information.
Well, this is the bilateral. This is the bilateral relations fact sheet from the State Department. Okay, U.S. relations with Ecuador. This ought to be some fun. The United States and Ecuador signed a treaty of peace, friendship, navigation, commerce, and group sex in 1839 and established the full diplomatic relations in 1848. U.S. consul had served unpronounceable since 1825. In 1942, the Department of State elevated the U.S. legation in Quito to the status of an embassy. So we've been sitting ambassador since 1942. They share an blah, 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 boilerplate. U.S. ambassadors to the United Nations, Linda Thomas Greenfield, led the U.S. delegation in the May 2021 inauguration of President Guillermo Lasso. Nobody cared, blah, blah, blah. United States, well, we could elaborate on lots of things. Yay. A signatory of the Los Angeles Declaration on Migration at the 2022 Summit of the Americas, Ecuador was an original proponent and signatory to the Quito process. Ecuador remains committed to assisting the social and economic integration of Venezuelan refugees in response to the success of their communist government and the humanitarian crisis that resulted in Venezuela. Since the start of the Venezuelan migration crisis in 2017, the U.S. government has provided more than $221 million in humanitarian development aid and development assistance for more than 500,000 Venezuelan refugees and migrants and their host communities in Ecuador. So Ecuador, little tiny Ecuador, is taking in Venezuelan refugees from big giant Venezuela. Holy crap. That's got to be a nightmare.
It looks like I'm trying to see if I'm looking at the history of U.S. interventions in Latin America. Ecuador might be the only place in Latin America that we didn't go into.
Yeah, the Ecuador is hard to get to. It's its own country because it's just sort of a pain in the ass part of the South America, and it's on the equator. It's hot, jungle, mountainous, hilly, and landing in the Quito airport is one of the hardest major airports in the world to land in.
Yeah, I found a table of interventions in Latin America going back to like
Did you
1890.
really?
Yeah, so we've got Argentina.
Oh, let's share this up. Let's share this up here. Can you share it out there?
I'll send you the link and you can share it because I know you love that.
I love to be the...
But yeah, Ecuador is one of the few countries that isn't on that list.
Man, this is a great chart. Who put this together? Internet.
Yeah, the internet.
The internet put it on. What? It's the internet. Is that vetted? You bet.
Everything on the internet is true. You know, they wouldn't put it out on the internet if it wasn't true.
They check it before they put it out.
Yeah. Spell check it.
Maybe. And so here we are. Okay, let's start with Argentina in the 1890s. Buenos Aires interests protected. Marines clash with nationalist rebels. Black Workers revolt. Month-long application of Bluefield. Marines land, cease from saying, Marines land, Marines intervene, U.S. interest. It's like a Marine training ground.
It is.
And finally, the Green Berets get a little training down there. And the sources are some book some guy wrote, some paper somebody wrote. Pardon me.
Yeah.
And various others.
But I like...
Howard Zinn, People's History of the United States. That's...
But we've got Uruguay, 1947, nuclear threat. Bombers deployed as show of strength. I didn't know there was a nuclear threat from Uruguay in 1947. What the hell is all this about?
The nuclear threat in Uruguay in 1947.
That would be a hell of a trivia question.
Was that about that reactor that they... What year was that again?
1947.
1947. I think I read something about this or saw a YouTube video on it. Let's see. U.S. bomber deployment to Uruguay in 1947. Anyone else ever hear of this deployment, or did the hippies from my... Okay. This came from Noam Chomsky, for what it's worth.
Chomsky, great play on the name.
That's what I've been calling it for years.
He's too far right.
Just commie.
He's too far right for progressives.
Yeah, he believes in free speech.
Let's see. And here, this is actually from somebody who says they're from Eduardo Gil from he says he's from Uruguay. I'm from Uruguay. That's nonsense. What bombers? The only bomber with nuclear capacity in service for the USAF in 1947 was the B-29. I think that's possibly not true. I can't remember when the B-36 came out. That plane never flew to this country. The B-36 could only overfly Uruguay, but not in 1947. And by sure that it did carry a nuclear bomb. Yeah, in 1940.
Does
can't
my audio
understand.
sound weird? Because you sound very strange to me, right?
No. I was just sort of thinking and talking at the same time. That's
talking about transmission quality. I'm getting weird
really?
static when you guys speak.
You
Really?
sound okay.
You
Okay.
sound fine. Prospero sounds fine to me. How do I sound to you, Prospero?
I just heard a tiny roboting then. Not roboting,
Well,
but yank. You know that.
But that's not what Harry's having.
No.
Harry's hearing static.
Static.
I'm hearing static and distortion from both of you.
Up now I heard it from you, Harry.
I think things might not be going well with StreamYard.
What a surprise. They don't like us talking about banana republics.
Yeah. Chat, do we sound like crap?
Let's stop screen sharing. I can't imagine that puts any kind of a load.
Addie says we sound fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're doing okay. We're
right.
about to wrap up anyway. Yeah, and but
Thanks, Scrappy.
you know, where else can you have this variety of topics? We've gone from Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young to Uruguay.
I did that for Sanguine. Somewhere out there he twitched.
What is all the thing with the fetish to pronounce countries' names and people's names in some sort of ethnic accent?
It drives him crazy when I do it with any Spanish word.
It's been going on in California like forever. I remember as a kid, they'd have this guy on, I think it was Channel 11 out of San Jose, and it'd be Rigo Chacon, you know.
Yes.
So every time he would get to any kind of Spanish word, you know, it'd just be blah, 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 English, blah, 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 Rigo Chacon.
Right. Or maybe the word hacienda would be in it. And he wouldn't say hacienda.
Di biblioteca.
Hacienda. La biblioteca.
Chicken con crema.
Cucamonga. Sorry.
Back when Greg Proops used to be funny, he had this whole thing about chicken con crema, and he was doing this whole thing with Spanish accents. Greg Proops used to be pretty damn funny.
He was.
And now he takes himself far too seriously, and he's just not funny.
Correct.
It's weird that a lot of comedians, a lot of the men who are comedians, they just get more sophisticated as the years go on. But some of these guys, it's like, maybe you should have just retired and started selling cars in your 30s, because you just stop now.
Yeah. Yeah, I did get complimented the other day when I ordered something in a Mexican restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought of Sanguine because I just chuckled to myself. Because I said quesabirria. And my art is a little bit more than I did just then.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the quesabirria tacos. And the waitress smiled and she said, "That's the best I've heard quesabirria tacos said since I've worked here." And I was like, "You're welcome." Didn't require a lot of effort on my part. It's not that hard to say it. But I said burrito one time on stream and Sanguine got upset. So I kept on saying it. He said, "It's burrito." And I was like, "No, it's burrito."
Okay, I have to, I gotta drop. I can't take any more of this sound.
All right,
I can drop and come back in, but it sounds like we're almost done.
Yeah, we're actually almost done. In fact, I was about to send it around and see if anybody else had.
Because I can
anything
only
else they
barely
wanted to add on
understand you at this point.
Okay, but any last words from anybody?
Yeah.
I'm going to call it good, and thank you guys for coming out and listening to us. Thank you, Chad, our friends, come out and support us. Thank you to my panel members here tonight. That's going to do it for here at the zoo for the at the Palace of the Minions here this evening. We're going to close it up and wish you a good evening and a pleasant tomorrow. The zoo is closed. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.